everybody, it's Mel. Thank you so much for joining me today for the There Are 10 But book tag. So I was tagged by the lovely Victoria from What Victoria Read to do this tag a couple of months ago. The tag was originally created by Coiny Reads and KD Books. As is per usual, anyone that I mention throughout this tag, I'm going to put their channel in the description below, and you should obviously go and subscribe to everyone. I am looking down at the phone, which is where I am looking at all the questions and everything, so excuse me. Also, we are in a slightly different space. There's kind of a long story behind why, but if you want to know what is going on, check out the vlog that comes out at the end of March. Everything's okay, just I'm in a different spot for today. Okay, so this tag is a tag that takes the premise of there are 10 but. So you think that they're fantastic, but there are some caveats to that. And there are, I think I just saw that there were 6 questions, and they're along the same lines as that. They're a tag, but, and of course it's books. So this book is a 10, but, etc. So let's just dive on in, shall we? Question number 1. There are 10, but they're over 500 pages long. So I have quite a few of those books that I could have chosen because, as you know, I read quite a lot of fantasy, and a lot of fantasy often tends to be over 500 pages long. But the book that I have chosen is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. So this one comes in at, if you exclude the glossary of names and places and whatnot, which is very long, 804 pages long. So it's fairly chunky. I absolutely loved this book. I thought it was fantastic, gave it 5 out of 5 stars. So it's definitely a 10, but it is a big book. It took a while to get into. It's quite a slow moving book, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but yeah, it takes a little while to get into. So definitely a 10, but over 500 pages long. So this one is a technically standalone fantasy, although there is now a prequel to it, but it doesn't, it's in the same world and it follows some of the same kind of, the same peoples, I think, the same like races and whatnot, but I don't think that it's, yeah, I haven't read it yet, I'll find out, I guess. And we follow, yeah, a bunch of different peoples, and a bunch of different kind of belief systems, and it's all in relation to their opinions and feelings towards dragons. And that's all I'm going to say, but I highly recommend if you enjoy epic fantasy, you will definitely enjoy this, I think. So that's that one. The next question is, there are 10, but they're on pre-order. My answer to this question is actually the same as Victoria's, and that is Silverborn, which I will put the image of just here. However, I do have a stand-in book as well, which is the first one, which is Nevermore. So Silverborn is the next book in the Nevermore series by Jessica Townsend. This was supposed to come out last year sometime and was put back. I think it's been put back a couple of times now, but it's scheduled, I'm pretty sure, to come out in October this year. I'm really, really excited for Silverborn. I really want it to come out. I'm excited to dive in and read it, but it's definitely been a while coming. So this series is just a warm hug of a book. It is middle grade fantasy, and I just love it. It's got the kind of chosen one trope, but it's got so much more than that. There's some found family in there. There is magical creatures, a giant cat. There is trials and game type of situation. We have a kind of school, magical school, all the different tropes of fantasy, young adult fantasy, YA fantasy, I mean, middle grade fantasy that I really, really enjoy. But it also touches on some more difficult topics like finding your place in the world and not feeling like you belong, and what is actually, you know, evil and what's not, and all that sort of stuff, which is done incredibly well. So highly recommend this series. The first one is Nevermore. There are currently 3 books out. So I've got Nevermore and these 2, which is Wondersmith and Hollowpox, and then Silverborn is the next one to come. So yeah, that's that one. The next question is, there are 10, but they're a red flag. So I take this one to mean that you really, really enjoyed this book, but they have some issues, whether it be the topic matter is a little bit hard-hitting, difficult for people to read, or not very well done, or whether the author has done some questionable things. that sort of thing. I watched Victoria's video relatively recently so that I could know what the questions were, even though she has the questions in the description. Thank you, Victoria. But I kind of wanted to get a sense of what she was doing. And I actually completely agree with the book she chose, which is The Time Traveller's Wife by Audrey Niffinger. So that is my answer for this question. But I'm also going to give a second answer to this question because I don't want to just keep repeating what Victoria has said. So my second answer to this question is the Millennium series, and I do actually have them, and did I go and get them? No, I did not. But anyway, the Millennium series by Stieg Larsson. So this series is a sort of spy, sort of mystery, thriller type of book, and kind of crime noir type of book. I really, really enjoyed this series. I thought it was incredibly well written, really gripping, and yeah, thought it was really fantastic. But I read it probably about 15 years ago now, and now that I've sort of developed as a reader and as a critical reader, I feel like there are probably some things that maybe don't hold up as well upon reflection. I haven't read it for a while. I have been thinking about reading it again and seeing what I think of it a second time round. Particularly, I feel like now that I've been kind of involved in BookTube, I've had some of my preconceived notions and assumptions about what is and isn't, appropriate and sort of questioned. But in general, I've grown and I'm not the same person. So yeah, I'm not sure how well it will hold up, but also there are some really, really hard-hitting subjects that are tackled in the books. I'm not sure how well they're tackled. Yeah, I'm not sure how well they're tackled. I'm not sure how carefully they're tackled. I'm not sure how mindfully they're tackled. I'm not sure how people who have experienced some of the things that are talked about in the book would feel about the way that they're talked about, the way that they're tackled. So that's a red flag for me because I'm not really sure. I haven't experienced any of the things, so I'm not really sure how I would feel, but they're very full on, they're very, very graphic. There is one scene in particular that is extremely graphic, sexual assault, and it is pages long, and I definitely felt like that was unnecessary. It was very hard to read, major trigger warnings, and yeah, I'm just not sure how well that was handled and how well that was written. So I think there are some definite red flags in this series, but I still really enjoyed it and I still thought it was really interesting and well done. Lots of twists and turns, lots of mystery, lots of fairly shocking things. Yeah, so definitely read with all that in mind. Definitely be aware of major trigger warnings for sexual assault, violence against women, violence in general, all sorts of different things. Just, yeah, lots of stuff. But again, I don't know how it would stand up. I probably will read the books at some point, sometime. I don't know when. I would like to. I've been thinking for a while now, but haven't got around to it yet. So maybe I'll do a vlog or something. Keep an eye out. But anyway, that's that one. The next question is, there are 10, but they're over 100 years old. I really probably could have picked quite a few books for this question. I do tend to read and enjoy a lot of classics, but the book that I've decided to go with is Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. This was originally published in 1908, so definitely over 100 years old now, about 112 years old now. So in terms of the classics that I've read and enjoyed, it's probably one of the younger books, but I absolutely love this book. I think it's so much fun. It's so beautifully written. I love the character of Anne, and I love this cover. Isn't it stunning? This is one of the Puffin in Bloom series. So we follow the young girl, or she's kind of 11, I think, Anne, who is an orphan and on Prince Edward Island in very late 19th century, very early 20th century, and two siblings, brother and sister, Marilla and Matthew Cuthbert, decide that they're getting older and they want to get some help around the farm, so they decide to send for an orphan boy to help out around the farm. But there's some kind of mix-up with the information that gets sent to the person that's going to find the orphan boy, and instead they send Anne. And it's all about Anne and what she gets up to, but it's about her growing up in Prince Edward Island at Green Gables and just about how she lives her life, how they get on together. There are some fairly hard-hitting subjects that are kind of touched on briefly and intimated about, but overall it's a really heartwarming and sweet story. So one of my favourite books of all time, highly recommend, and over 100 years old, so it definitely works for the there are 10 but over 100 years old question. The next question is, there are 10, but they were studied in school. So I really like this question. I mean, I like all of the questions, but I really like this question because I feel like there are a lot of books that you do study at school or university, college, that you kind of pick to pieces and analyze to the point where you no longer necessarily enjoy it, or it didn't have as much meaning to you, it lost a sense of meaning, which to me is kind of strange because you're analyzing it's supposed to give meaning, but just that act of analyzing it, picking it apart, etc., can take away from that initial just, I really enjoyed reading this book. So I have chosen 2 books because I'm not 100% sure that either of these books really entirely fit the premise of the question. So the first one is Emma by Jane Austen, and the second one is Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. Both of these books I studied in my last year of high school in English. I hated Tess of the D'Urbervilles, absolutely couldn't stand it. I really enjoyed Emma. So I'm not sure, like I said, whether or not these two really entirely fit the premise of the question. I really enjoyed Emma. I enjoyed it at the time. I enjoyed studying it. I enjoyed finding out more about Austen and Emma, but I just enjoyed the book a lot, and it's not my favourite Austen. My favourite Austens are Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice, but Emma is the reason why I started reading other Jane Austens. It still holds up. I still enjoy it. I love Austen, so not entirely fits the premise of the book, but it's still a 10, and I still studied it at school. The other one is Tess of the D'Urbervilles. Like I said, I absolutely hated it at school when I studied it, and for years and years and years I was like, nope, hate that book, nope, never going to read it, horrible book. But recently, over the time I've been involved in BookTube, I've seen a few different people talk about it and say how much they enjoyed it, and I thought maybe it's time to give it another read and see if it was partly because of when I read it, because I was a teenager, but also, you know, the act of analysing it, whether that in fact destroyed my enjoyment of the book. So I did read it last year, I think, and I actually did enjoy it. I definitely feel like it was a book that maybe I shouldn't have studied at the age that I studied it. I feel like maybe I was a little bit too young and inexperienced to really get as much out of it as I got later. But not to say that teenagers don't understand things, can't get things out of reading things. Maybe there are teenagers that have read Tess of the D'Urbervilles and really enjoyed it and got a lot out of it. But I don't think that I was the right audience at the time. But I did enjoy it when I read it. Did I give it 10? Well, I don't think so. I don't think I was using Corpile at the time, so maybe it was even longer ago. I can't remember what I gave it. I don't think I gave it 5 stars or 10, but I definitely enjoyed it. So, you know, it fits the bill. I didn't like it in school, but I had to study it in school, didn't enjoy it, have later decided I do like it. So yeah, those two I feel like cobbled together kind of answer the question. But anyway, that's where we are. The final question is, there are 10, but they leave you with emotional damage. And for this one, I have chosen an entire series. I've got one of them here to kind of stand in for them all. So I grabbed Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. This is the first book in the Live Ship Traders trilogy, which is the second trilogy in the Realm of the Elderling kind of arc of series. I love the Realm of the Elderlings. I love all of the books. I have said recently that I didn't read the Rainwild Chronicles initially because I wasn't sure, I wasn't into it, but I'm reading those now when I haven't read these other ones for a while, so, and I'm really enjoying them now as well. Robin Hobb just absolutely makes you cry. It absolutely destroys you. It definitely, all of her books leave you with emotional damage. She's an incredible author. She writes incredible characters, but she puts them through hell. And yeah, these books have made me absolutely sob, but I absolutely love them. They are amazing, amazing books. If you like epic fantasy, you will love this. If you like character-driven, amazing world-building epic fantasy, you will love this series. They're a little bit slow going, particularly the first trilogy, which is the Farseer trilogy, but they're incredible. The Live Ship Traders series remains my favourite trilogy of the series. But yeah, that's that one. It could also have been, there are 10, but they're over 500 pages long because this one is 880 pages long, and this is not the thickest book by far. But yeah, it definitely needed to be in this category. So that is the end of the questions. I am now going to tag some people. I'm going to do something similar to what Victoria does as well, where she goes through her subscriptions and sees who has uploaded recently and tags some people from that. I'm going to do a similar thing, except I'm going to go into my history and see which videos from which booktubers I've watched recently. I have watched Victoria recently, but I'm obviously not going to tag her. I have also watched a couple of people's videos recently who are quite a bit bigger channels than I am, and I don't think that they know who I am. Normally I don't tag people who I'm pretty sure don't know who I am, but I just thought, why not? How are they going to find out who I am if I don't tag them? Do that sort of thing, interact with them. So we'll see how we go. The worst that can happen is they won't even know that they were tagged. So the first person that comes up on my watch history is Joshana from Joshana. So I will tag Joshana to do there are 10 but tag. The second person that comes up on my watched recently list is Becca from Becca and the Books. So again, Becca, I am tagging you. Then we have Ellie from Elgro Books. So of course I know that she will see that she has been tagged. I feel like I tag Ellie in pretty much every single tag that I do. So here's another one for your list, Ellie. The next person that I'm going to tag is Denise from Adventures in the Enchanted Forest. So consider yourself tagged. And the final person that I'm going to tag is Kirsty from K Beth Bookish. And yeah, those are all the people that I'm going to tag. If you've already done the tag, please feel free obviously to ignore me. If you don't particularly want to do the tag, then again, please feel free to ignore me. If you are not one of the people I've mentioned here, but you thought this was an interesting tag and you'd like to do the tag, please consider yourselves tagged. But yeah, that's it from me today, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of all the books that I talked about in this tag, what you might have chosen for, well, any or all of the questions if you'd like to. If you'd like to leave me a comment but you don't know what, then leave me a red flag emoji. All of my social media details are listed in the description below, so if you'd like to go and follow me on any of those other platforms, please feel free to do so. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would absolutely love it if you would subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. And yeah, like I said, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.